One of my biggest problems in the studio here has always been lighting. I'm not talking about the lighting when I'm just recording content like what we're doing in this video right now. I'm talking about the lighting in this studio when I'm actually, let's say, sitting on my desk, trying to work with different things, or even trying to work on some of the B-roll that I get preparing for this video. And one of the biggest things you probably have noticed in a lot of my videos is that I actually have these Nanoleaf panels in the back. Well, today we're actually going to check out the Nanoleaf Skylight, a solution from Nanoleaf that provides us the ability of getting some of the customizations from the Nanoleaf panels in a skylight that actually provides us enough lighting to just make anything work. So without further ado, today we're reviewing the Nanoleaf Skylight. Thank you very much to Nanoleaf for sending me these units, and let's go ahead and check them out and see how we're able to improve our experience when it comes to lighting and customizations in our studio. Like and subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos for you on the channel. So the package that they sent me is, again, the Nanoleaf Skylight. This is the Smarter by Design. That's just the Nanoleaf logo that we get in there. And unfortunately, because the box is too big in the studio, I'm not able to actually show you guys the entire box from the outside. But again, this is the starter kit, the Nanoleaf Skylight Smart Modular Ceiling Light, and this is the starter kit. The reason behind that is it includes 3 panels, but the main panel, that's the controller, is included with 2 additional side panels. And the nice thing about it is you're actually able to pick up additional panels individually up to the number that you want. We have the ability of getting diffused lighting, bright lights from 2700 to 6500 Kelvin, and of course animated color scenes up to 16 million colors, and of course rhythm mode, which means we actually have the ability of using these lights to sync up to music whenever we're listening to it. Last but not least, of course, this works with Apple HomeKit, Google Home, as well as Amazon Alexa, which makes this very functional on top of the fact that it's supported by the Nanoleaf app. Up to 1400 lumens per panel from 0 to 100%, and a rated testing of up to 25,000 hours, which makes these very functional. They are dimmable, voice controlled using the application depending on the smart assistant that you're using, color temperature configuration, color channel configuration, and of course the model numbers that we have. Again, this one is the starter kit. It includes 1 starter panel and of course 2 additional expansion slots. As we said before, it's supported directly with the Nanoleaf app. The App Store directly provides you access to the Apple options as well as the Google Play Store. It does work with Razer Chroma. If you have Razer Chroma, you're able to sync up your RGB, so it works really great with your PC, and of course the additional ones for smart home connections. Now, being that my system's already installed, I don't have a way of showing you guys exactly what it looks like on the main panel, but for the most part, all of them look pretty much the same. We have a diffuser cover that is clickable, and the actual click options are the inside, so it becomes very nice and clean and flush on the outside. And when it comes down to the main unit, the biggest difference between the main setup unit and this one is that it has all the electronics, and that's the unit that you actually connect to your ceiling light. So you do have to have already a receptacle or an opening for a ceiling light built in. And if you don't, you will need to have basically a professionally installed one, as I ended up having to do in my studio. That was one of the reasons why I wasn't able to do this video for you guys sooner, or at least when I first got it. I needed to install a lighting option in the studio because currently the way my lights are set up, the light switch only controls basically a power outlet in my room, which provided me power to a light pole, which is one of the options that unfortunately did not give me enough light in the studio. Otherwise, when you're getting an expansion panel, it comes with the wired option that this is going to be basically connecting to another unit. That's the other panel or the main unit. And then you remove 4 screws from in here. You connect the options. You'll show you 1, 2, 3. That's how you connect them, and then route them correctly. And they provide you with little snips or little clips here on the sides. And the reason behind that is if you don't wire the wires correctly and you let them hang a little bit, some of the light from the actual LEDs that we have on here will start showing the wires on the bottom part of the panel. So when you cover it up, and to get the best cleanest installation, you do need to end up using these little clips here to wire your options correctly. It did take us approximately an hour and 45 minutes to install the 9 panels that we have in the studio right now. And one of the biggest one of the biggest challenges was the alignment, the installation, and making sure that everything runs correctly. The main unit that comes, basically the main controller, does not have the openings here for the screws on the top right. So we have one on the top here, on the bottom, as well as the bottom area here that you're able to configure and screw it to the wall. The main unit has the mount for basically, let's say, a light fixture mount that you're able to configure it, and then there, everything else you basically install the main unit where you want it and you start building around it. And that was the installation process that we did. It did take some time, and it did take me some time to basically get everything installed correctly. Again, about an hour and 40 minutes, and it was mostly because we ended up taking breaks between them. Now, as far as configuration, right now I'm using the Nanoleaf app. You'll notice right here, they have the ability of discovering, exploring. You're able to go into configuration. I have the system turned on, but I do have the light turned off. The Nanoleaf panels in the back, those are the ones we saw in the video. They're pretty simple, easy to configure. You can go in, theme, change the color scheme, all of the different options that you'd like. But here on the actual panels or the skylight, you're able to configure it in different options. You can either customize it by the color panel, so color palette, or by temperature, as well as the ability of having some presets in here, so you can have some like easy to turn on, easy to change. There's also the scene configuration. Those are the ones that are pre-built directly. You can also add an additional one for yourself, as well as the ability of jumping into some of the pre-created playlists like Rhythm Sync. And this allows us to actually sync this to any audio or music that's playing in the background. So it doesn't need the app on the phone, but it listens and it starts reacting to it. As I'm showing you guys a quick sample here in the studio, I was playing a song, one of our songs on in the studio, and it looks absolutely fantastic. Now, I'm able to sync this obviously with the nano panels that I have, the Nanoleaf panels that I have, that it makes it look really, really nice. And once you favored some of them, you're able to put them in a smart list, makes it easy to configure. And you're also able to change not only the temperature, but also the percentage of the power that it's actually putting in there. So you notice right there, I have it set up. I'm also able to change it to be about 48%. And you can change all of these and configure them, as well as the ability of configuring it directly into a Google Assistant or HomeKit or anything else by turning on the Connect API. For me, I turned it on and I connected it to my Google Assistant. We don't have Apple HomeKit here, so that didn't work for me. And I don't really use the Amazon ecosystem as much, so for me, the Google Assistant works the best. Last but not least, you can also change the configuration here to remember exactly which ones you want it to do. If you want to have it always on at 100%, you can select the main one, or have it remember the last scene that you had, so that every time you turn it on, it goes back to that. Now, as you can see here, I have it configured directly within the Google Home. I'm able to turn it on and turn it off, so you'll notice here the lighting is turning on. And you can customize it and go in there and change different options, do a little bit more customization as well. And of course, using the assistant to turn it on and turn it off. The main reason I was interested in the skylight was purely for the lighting effect. I wanted to have better lighting in the studio. The difference between what the light pole was providing me and what we get directly with the panels here is literally like night and day. They're almost like not even close to even compare one to the other, because one is positioned in one location in the room and the other one is centered in the center of the room, and it's customizable. I went with a square design. You're able to go with any shape that you'd like. And what I like about them is those little ports that I showed you guys on each side, you're able to route your cables so that you can actually even do them in more of an offset a little bit. So you get a square here, and then you can go for the square that's slightly lower. As long as two of the ports connect, you're able to wire the power cable as well as the sync cable, and it'll work very nicely. Also, what I liked about it is it actually recognized and synced up every single panel as I was adding them. So it was easy for me to double check and make sure that everything was configured correctly, so that we didn't end up having to get to the last panel before we were able to figure out everything was fine. Now, I didn't run them in a daisy chain, but I did configure it so that it was a centerpiece first. And then from there, I connected the outer piece, like basically more of a cross type of a configuration. And the corner panels, the last four on the top, I connected them to the one next to them, providing me more of a daisy chain type of an experience, but not necessarily one long chain entirely running on top of each other. Easy to recognize, easy to identify, and at the end of the day, I like the fact that it has the built-in music sync. So like what you're seeing with the Nanoleaf panels at the top, there's a little bit of a small adapter that I ended up having to buy for it to have the music option. These don't need to have that. And what I like about them is it's easily configurable via apps. So let's go ahead and just do this. I want to show you guys exactly. Right now I'm using the studio lights, but if I, let's say, turn the lights on, it is pretty bright. I'm able to configure it to go a little bit blue, a little bit yellow, a little bit red, change the ambiance, a little bit green. Again, the green doesn't really play as much because we have a lot of greens back there. But purple, you could definitely see it right there. And of course, if I want to just turn it off, I can go in there and easily turn it off, and it works just the same. The difference in the studio is night and day. I really like them, and I've been using them for the last 2 weeks. They've been absolutely fantastic. So obviously, not everything is perfect. There is a couple of caveats that I do need to share. If you're using them in the configuration that I have, which means I have them connected to a light switch, I turn them on and I turn them off when I don't need them. They're not on all the time. The best experience is going to be if you just turn on the configuration, leave the light switch on, and just turn them off in the app every single time, so they actually get the best experience, because they will be ready for you right at that moment. If you use a light switch like I do, there's a couple of caveats. A, automation won't work if you have the light switch off, because the power is cut to the panels and there's no way for them to actually know that they need to turn on. So you can't use the assistant to turn them on. To do that, you do need to leave them on all the time. They're not necessarily using a lot of power, but they're basically in a very low power state when you're not using them, to provide them the ability of just basically receive the wake up command that you're trying to use, either through the app or the voice assistant. But if you do turn them off, that's going to just function like a regular, basically light. If you have the option in the app configured to go back to the last state, it will remember it even if it does shut down. So that part works very nicely. But what you do want to keep in mind is just the automation function requires it to stay on. And I think a lot of other people did install them, and they do recommend you to keep them connected all the time. And the reason why I was mentioning the light switch, it's because if you do turn them off and turn them back on, you do need to wait about 30 to 35 seconds for them to connect back to that Wi-Fi connection for you to control them in the app. And that is about the only thing that kind of bugged me a little bit. Now, the reason why I mentioned you guys the light switch and having to turn them on and remembering everything, it's because they don't connect to the Wi-Fi instantaneously. They need enough time, obviously, for them to turn on, find the Wi-Fi, connect to it. So if you turn them off and turn them back on with the light switch, you won't see them functioning in the app right away. That's the thing you need to keep in mind. So you just need to be a little bit patient. Again, about 30 seconds, more than likely by the time you go in, turn on the light, put your phone down or do whatever, they're ready for you to use them. But if you want that instantaneous access, it's going to need to be where you leave them on all the time and you shut them off using the app on the phone or the assistant functionality and not turn off the light switch. So you basically block off the light switch and it becomes much more instantaneous because it's connected all the time. But otherwise, you just need to be a little bit patient. And I think that was my biggest surprise initially, like not wondering why isn't it working, but why does it always take a little bit for it to show up in the app? The panels are always connected. So for me, those were always available. And I think I understand that a little bit more. So depending on what you need, you're going to get them to work the way you want them. Just be aware you do need to have a starter kit. You can't just pick up the panels by themselves. What I showed you today was an expansion panel. So I had one extra one that I wasn't able to use. So in my configuration was a 3x3. So it's basically a square. So 9 panels in total. But the nice thing about them, I can actually expand them a little bit in more of a mosaic experience. And I've seen people do really nice designs. Like you can do bar size, you can do larger squares or even just an outline. As long as the centerpiece is connected to the power in the ceiling, it's going to be perfect. For me, I did have to have a special installation done there. And what it ended up doing for me is provided me a better solution for lighting. So I hope that you found this video helpful. I hope that you can see the benefit of what the Skylight offers, and what Nanoleaf is trying to give us here is the ability of having a beautiful bright light above us. But it comes with the customizations that Nanoleaf has given us with the Nanoleaf panels that we've seen and we've come to love. Very easy, very simple. It takes a little bit of time to install. As long as you follow the instructions that they give you, you're not going to be disappointed. Like and subscribe as usual. Thank you to Nanoleaf for sending me not only the starter kit, the additional panels to be able to set them up. And I'm very happy to finally be able to make this video for you guys. So please let me know what you guys think. And of course, I will see you in the next video.